The untold story of Steve Jobs. From abandoned child to the man who changed the world. When you hold an iPhone in your hand, listen to music on an iPod, or work on a sleek MacBook, you are not just using a piece of technology, you are holding a fragment of one man's vision. That man was Steve Jobs, a rebel, a dreamer, and a revolutionary who reshaped the way humanity interacts with technology. But behind the glossy products, behind the worldwide success of Apple, there was a deeply human story, a story of rejection, struggle, obsession, failure, and triumph. Jobs was not born into privilege. He was not the most obedient student. He was not even a perfect leader. Yet he changed industries, influenced billions of lives, and left a legacy so powerful that his name remains synonymous with creativity, vision, and excellence. Steve Jobs' story is not just about technology. It is about what it means to live with passion, to demand more from yourself than others think possible, and to refuse to settle for mediocrity. His life forces us to ask ourselves, what am I doing with my time? Am I following the crowd, or am I daring to think differently? Why we need to learn about Steve Jobs? We live in a world that constantly tells us to be realistic, to be safe, to follow the rules. But Steve Jobs broke those rules, and by doing so, he rewrote them. Learning about his life is not just about admiring a genius, it's about uncovering principles that can ignite our own journeys. There are at least 3 reasons why understanding Steve Jobs matters. He embodied the power of vision. Jobs saw what others couldn't. In the late 1970s, when computers were giant machines locked away in corporations, he saw them as personal tools for individuals. In the 2000s, when mobile phones were clunky and uninspiring, he envisioned them as elegant extensions of human life. Vision is what separates leaders from followers, and Jobs showed us what it looks like to hold a vision so fiercely that it becomes reality. He proved that failure is not final. Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he built. For most people, that would have been the end. But for Jobs, it was a turning point. He built Next, nurtured Pixar, and eventually returned to Apple to lead the greatest comeback story in business history. His life is proof that setbacks are setups for comebacks. He connected technology with humanity. Jobs once said, "Technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the results that make our hearts sing." That philosophy is why Apple products don't just work, they inspire. Learning from Jobs teaches us that true innovation is not about machines, but about people. But beyond these reasons, Jobs' life is a mirror. His journey forces us to reflect on our own choices. Are we settling for good enough, or are we striving for greatness? Are we living a life dictated by others, or one designed by our own vision? When Steve Jobs gave his famous commencement speech at Stanford in 2005, he ended with the words, "Stay hungry. Stay foolish." That short phrase captures his spirit. Hungry for excellence, for innovation, for change. Foolish for daring to believe in ideas so bold they might seem impossible. And that is why we need to study Steve Jobs, not to copy his path, but to learn how to unlock the same fire within ourselves. His life is a call to action, to think different, to live different, and to leave our own dent in the universe. Biography and life background. Steve Paul Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California. His beginning was not glamorous, nor was it secure. His biological parents, 2 graduate students, Abdul Fattah Jandali and Joanne Schiebel, felt they were not ready to raise a child. Just days after his birth, Steve was put up for adoption. That wound of rejection, though hidden beneath his later success, shaped him deeply. Jobs would later confess that being abandoned at birth left him with both a sense of independence and a constant need to prove his worth. The couple who adopted him, Paul and Clara Jobs, were working-class people with no wealth, status, or prestige. Paul was a machinist and mechanic who loved working with his hands, fixing cars, and teaching his son about craftsmanship. Clara was a warm, supportive mother who created stability in Steve's otherwise restless spirit. From them, Steve learned 2 essential values: hard work and attention to detail. It was in the family garage in Mountain View, later known as the heart of Silicon Valley, that young Steve discovered his love for tinkering. He would watch his father build things, learning that even the parts people didn't see should be crafted with care. That lesson stayed with him for life. Jobs' early years in school were turbulent. He was intelligent but mischievous, often bored in class and prone to getting into trouble. Yet when something captured his interest, he could focus with incredible intensity. This dual nature, rebellious but deeply curious, became a defining feature of his character. By the time he was a teenager, Jobs was fascinated by electronics. In high school, he met Steve Wozniak, a brilliant, shy engineer who loved building gadgets. Their friendship was unlikely but powerful. Wozniak had the technical genius, and Jobs had the vision and charisma. Together, they would later spark a revolution. After graduating high school, Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Oregon. But within 6 months, he dropped out. The structure of formal education didn't suit him. Instead, he dropped in on classes that truly interested him, like calligraphy. At the time, it seemed impractical. But years later, when designing the Macintosh, Jobs used what he had learned about fonts and typography. He famously reflected in his Stanford speech, "If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts." Jobs was not just influenced by technology. He was also shaped by the cultural environment of the 1960s and 70s, an era of counterculture, spiritual exploration, and social change. He experimented with LSD, embraced Eastern philosophy, and even traveled to India in search of spiritual clarity. These experiences left a permanent mark on him, infusing his later work with a sense of simplicity, mindfulness, and a desire to merge technology with the human spirit. In 1974, Jobs took a job at Atari, a video game company. His creativity and boldness stood out, though his temperament sometimes clashed with colleagues. Still, it was here that he honed his ability to bridge the gap between engineering and design. Soon after, his path crossed again with Steve Wozniak, and history began to unfold. In 1976, in the Jobs family garage, the two Steves built the Apple I computer. They were not just assembling circuits, they were building the foundation of a new era. With borrowed money and boundless ambition, Apple Computer was born. Jobs was only 21 years old. Looking back, Jobs' early life seems almost like a paradox. A boy abandoned at birth, yet deeply loved by his adoptive parents. A restless student who dropped out, yet became one of the most influential minds of his generation. A rebel who resisted authority, yet built one of the most disciplined companies in the world. His biography reminds us of something essential. Greatness is not determined by where you start. Jobs didn't begin with privilege. He began with curiosity, with restlessness, with a hunger to explore. And that hunger carried him from a small garage in California to stages where he unveiled devices that changed the very way we live. If there is one thing that defined Steve Jobs more than his products, more than his company, and more than his wealth, it was his mindset. Jobs saw the world differently. He lived differently. He thought differently. His philosophy of life was not just about business. It was about how to live with intensity, with purpose, and with passion. Trusting intuition over logic, one of Jobs' most powerful traits was his belief in intuition. He didn't make decisions solely based on data, statistics, or logic. He trusted his instincts, even when they didn't make sense to others. This was evident when he insisted on including beautiful typography on the Macintosh, something engineers argued was unnecessary. Or when he demanded that the iPod have a simple, elegant interface, even if it meant discarding months of engineering work. Jobs believed intuition was a form of wisdom that logic could not always reach. He once said, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become." For Jobs, intuition was not vague. It was a compass. It guided him to make bold, creative choices that reshaped industries. Living with urgency at age 17, Jobs came across a quote that would forever change his perspective. "If you live each day as if it were your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." From then on, he looked in the mirror each morning and asked himself, "If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today?" If the answer was no for too many days in a row, he knew he needed to change something. This philosophy of urgency drove him to move fast, to pursue what mattered, and to cut out distractions. Time was precious and he refused to waste it. Even as he battled cancer later in life, he maintained this perspective. Life is short, so live it fully. Jobs turned mortality into motivation. He said in his Stanford speech, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Simplicity as the ultimate sophistication. Jobs' obsession with simplicity came from his exposure to Zen Buddhism and his spiritual experiences in India. To him, simplicity was not about removing features, but about focusing only on what truly mattered. He applied this to Apple relentlessly. When he returned to Apple in 1997, the company was drowning in dozens of confusing product lines. Jobs slashed them down to 4. He told his team, "Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do." This philosophy gave birth to some of the most iconic designs in technology: the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad, all characterized by minimalism, clarity, and elegance. Jobs once said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." That principle wasn't just about design. It was about life, focus, eliminate the unnecessary, put energy into the essential. The pursuit of excellence. If Jobs was uncompromising about one thing, it was excellence. He despised mediocrity. He demanded greatness from himself, from his team, and from every product Apple produced. This often made him difficult to work with. Former employees described him as harsh, demanding, and sometimes unreasonable, but many also admitted that Jobs pushed them beyond their limits, helping them achieve things they never thought possible. An example was his insistence that the inside of the Macintosh, which customers would never see, be as beautifully designed as the outside. When engineers protested that it didn't matter, Jobs replied, "But we'll know. And if it's beautiful, it will endure." Jobs believed excellence was not a luxury, it was a responsibility. He once said, "Be a yardstick of quality." Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. Thinking differently, Apple's famous slogan, "Think different," was not just advertising. It was Jobs' life philosophy. He believed that progress came not from following the rules, but from questioning them. Jobs challenged assumptions constantly. When building the iPhone, he asked, "Why do we need a physical keyboard? Why can't the screen itself be the input?" That one question destroyed the dominance of companies like BlackBerry and Nokia and created a new era of smartphones. He encouraged others to do the same. "Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower," he said. His message was clear. Don't just accept the world as it is, reimagine it. Connecting technology with humanity, what truly made Jobs unique was his ability to merge technology with the humanities. He wasn't a programmer or an engineer. He was a storyteller, a designer, a visionary. He didn't just build devices, he built experiences. Jobs believed technology should feel personal, emotional, and even magical. That's why Apple ads didn't list specs or features. They told stories about how technology fit into your life. He wanted people not just to use Apple products, but to feel something when they did. He said, "Technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the results that make our hearts sing." Staying hungry, staying foolish, perhaps Jobs' most famous words came at the end of his Stanford speech. Stay hungry, stay foolish. To stay hungry means never to settle, never to think you've arrived. To stay foolish means to keep experimenting, keep dreaming, keep daring to do what others call impossible. This motto guided Jobs his entire life. Even when he was at the top, he never stopped pushing boundaries. And even when he failed, he treated failure not as an ending, but as fuel for reinvention. The essence of his philosophy. Steve Jobs' mindset can be summed up in a few key principles. Trust your intuition. Live urgently, time is limited. Embrace simplicity. Demand excellence. Think differently. Connect technology with humanity. Stay hungry, stay foolish. This was more than a philosophy. It was the engine of his life. It drove him to revolutionize multiple industries, to inspire millions, and to leave a legacy that continues to shape the future. Jobs once said, "We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here?" That sentence captures his mindset better than anything else. For him, life was not about playing it safe. It was about making it count. Steve Jobs' life was not a straight road to greatness. It was a roller coaster of dizzying highs, crushing lows, bold risks, and triumphant comebacks. His journey reveals that success is not about avoiding failure. It's about how you respond to it, how you adapt, and how you keep moving forward with vision and courage. The birth of Apple in 1976. In the garage of Jobs' childhood home in Los Altos, California, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak built their first computer, the Apple I. It was a simple wooden box containing a circuit board, but it marked the beginning of a revolution. Unlike the massive, intimidating computers used in corporations, the Apple I was designed for individuals. Jobs' vision was clear. He wanted to bring computing power to ordinary people. With just $2,300 scraped together from selling Jobs' Volkswagen van and Wozniak's calculator, they launched Apple Computer. Jobs, only 21 years old, became the charismatic face of the company, while Wozniak was the technical wizard behind the scenes. Apple grew quickly. By 1980, it went public, making Jobs a millionaire at 25. But money was never the driving force for him. His real obsession was creating products that were not only useful, but also beautiful. Products that could change lives. The Macintosh and the first revolution in 1984. Jobs unveiled the Macintosh, a computer that was radically different from anything before it. With its graphical user interface, mouse-driven controls, and friendly design, it made computing intuitive and accessible. The launch was accompanied by Apple's now legendary 1984 commercial, directed by Ridley Scott, which positioned Apple as the liberator of the individual against the conformity of IBM. Jobs stood on stage, eyes gleaming, holding the Macintosh as though it were a piece of art, and in many ways it was. The Mac didn't just sell, it inspired. It marked the beginning of personal computing as we know it, but inside Apple, conflicts were brewing. Jobs' intensity, perfectionism, and demanding nature clashed with executives and the board. By 1985, after a power struggle, Jobs was forced out of the very company he had founded. Exile, Next, and Pixar being fired from Apple was devastating. Jobs later admitted, "I was out," and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. Yet, in his exile, Jobs planted the seeds of his future. He founded Next, a company that built high-performance workstations for education and business. While Next was not commercially successful, its software and design innovations were years ahead of their time. Ironically, the Next operating system would later become the foundation of modern macOS and iOS. At the same time, Jobs purchased a struggling animation studio from George Lucas for $10 million. That studio became Pixar. Jobs believed in the potential of computer animation when few others did. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, the world's first fully computer-animated feature film. It was a massive hit, launching Pixar into stardom and reshaping the entire film industry. So while Jobs may have been exiled from Apple, he was quietly building the skills, technologies, and companies that would define his comeback. The return to Apple by the mid-1990s, Apple was in trouble. Its products were outdated, its leadership was lost, and its finances were crumbling. In 1997, in a dramatic twist of fate, Apple acquired Next, and with it, Steve Jobs returned to the company he had founded. Jobs wasted no time. He simplified Apple's bloated product line, cutting dozens of projects and focusing only on a few core products. He rallied his team around a new vision, to make technology not just functional, but also personal, elegant, and desirable. In 1998, Apple introduced the iMac, a colorful all-in-one computer that was both fun and powerful. It sold millions, restored Apple's reputation, and signaled that Steve Jobs was back. The golden decade of innovation. What followed was one of the most extraordinary decades of innovation in business history. Under Jobs' leadership, Apple unveiled a series of groundbreaking products that didn't just succeed, they redefined industries. 2001, the iPod. Jobs declared 1,000 songs in your pocket. The iPod revolutionized music, making it portable, personal, and digital. Coupled with iTunes, it transformed how we buy and listen to music. 2007, the iPhone. Jobs walked on stage and announced 3 revolutionary devices: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary phone, and an internet communicator. Then he revealed they were all one device, the iPhone. This single product reshaped the mobile industry, created the modern smartphone, and put the world in our pockets. 2010, the iPad. Jobs introduced the iPad as a device that sat between a phone and a computer. Critics scoffed at first, but it quickly became another industry-shaping product, popularizing tablets and changing the way people consumed content. Each of these launches wasn't just about hardware, it was about a vision of how technology could fit into human life. Jobs' keynote presentations became cultural events, with millions tuning in to watch him unveil the future. The battle with illness in 2003, Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. True to his nature, he initially resisted conventional treatment, exploring alternative therapies. But as the disease progressed, he underwent surgery and treatments, even receiving a liver transplant in 2009. Despite his illness, Jobs continued to lead Apple with relentless energy. Some of his most groundbreaking announcements, the iPhone, the iPad, came during this period when he was already fighting for his life. His resilience was extraordinary. Standing on stage, thinner and frailer with each passing year, he still radiated passion and intensity. His illness was a constant reminder of his own philosophy. Life is short, so live it fully. The final years and legacy on. October 5, 2011. Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. The world mourned. Crowds gathered outside Apple stores to leave flowers, notes, and tributes. Leaders, innovators, and ordinary people alike paid homage to a man who had reshaped their world. Jobs' legacy was not just Apple's financial success, though it became the most valuable company in the world. His legacy was the culture he created, a culture of excellence, of beauty and technology, of boldness and vision. He once said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." Jobs was one of those people. And by daring to be different, he changed not just technology, but the very fabric of human life. Steve Jobs was not a conventional leader, nor was he a flawless human being. He was demanding, sometimes harsh and often polarizing. Yet his life offers some of the most profound lessons on vision, resilience, and the pursuit of excellence. These lessons go far beyond technology or business. They apply to anyone who wants to live with purpose, passion, and impact. Here are the most powerful lessons we can learn from his journey. Follow your curiosity. Relentlessly. Jobs never followed a straight path. He dropped out of college, experimented with calligraphy, traveled to India in search of spirituality, and immersed himself in counterculture movements. At the time, none of it seemed practical. But years later, those experiences came together in unexpected ways. The typography class he audited gave the Macintosh its beautiful fonts. His interest in design made Apple products elegant and simple. His spiritual explorations influenced Apple's minimalism and focus on user experience. Jobs once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future." Lesson: don't ignore your curiosity just because it doesn't fit a career plan. Follow it. One day, those dots will connect. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Jobs believed that true genius lay in simplicity. He drew inspiration from Zen Buddhism and applied it to product design. For him, simplicity was not about lack. It was about clarity, about distilling something down to its essence. This is why Apple products stand out. They are not cluttered with unnecessary features. Every line, every curve, every button has a purpose. When designing the iPod, Jobs demanded that any song could be reached within 3 clicks. That obsessive focus on simplicity made technology accessible to everyone. Lesson: in life and work, complexity is easy. Simplicity is hard. Strip away what doesn't matter. Focus on what does yours through. Failure is not fatal. It's fertile. Jobs was fired from Apple in 1985, the company he created. For most people, that would have been the end. But Jobs turned failure into a foundation. He launched Next, which laid the groundwork for modern Apple software. He nurtured Pixar, which revolutionized animation. And when he returned to Apple in 1997, he came back wiser, sharper, and more visionary than before. He later admitted, "I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." Lesson: failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Don't fear setbacks. Use them as fuel for reinvention. Demand excellence in everything. Jobs was famous for his obsession with quality. He would reject prototypes, demand redesigns, and push his teams beyond their limits. Some saw him as unreasonable, but that uncompromising pursuit of excellence created products that people didn't just use, they loved. He once insisted that the inside of a computer, invisible to the customer, should be as beautifully designed as the outside. When asked why, he replied, "Because you'll know. And if it's beautiful, it will last." Lesson: don't settle for good enough. Whether you're building a product, writing a report, or living your life, aim for excellence. Think Different Apple's slogan. Think different was more than advertising. It was Jobs' life philosophy. He believed innovation comes from questioning assumptions, from challenging the status quo, from daring to imagine what others think is impossible. When developing the iPhone, he asked, "Why do we need a keyboard at all? Why can't the screen itself be the keyboard?" That simple question destroyed the dominance of BlackBerry and Nokia, reshaping the mobile industry forever. Lesson: don't be afraid to think differently. The ideas that seem crazy today may be the breakthroughs of tomorrow. Technology should serve humanity. Jobs wasn't a programmer. He wasn't an engineer. What he excelled at was understanding how technology could connect with human emotion. He didn't just build gadgets, he built tools for creativity, communication, and self-expression. Apple products weren't about circuits and chips. They were about people, helping them listen to music, capture memories, express ideas, and connect with others. Jobs explained it best. Technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the results that make our hearts sing. Lesson: whatever you build or create, remember the human being on the other end. Serve people, not just processes. Live as if each day were your last. Perhaps the most profound lesson from Jobs' life came from his awareness of mortality. Diagnosed with cancer in 2003, he lived his final years with a fierce urgency. He knew time was limited, and that knowledge sharpened his focus. He told Stanford graduates in 2005, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." Lesson: don't postpone the life you want to live. Don't compromise your vision to fit someone else's expectations. Act today. The core of his wisdom, Steve Jobs' lessons, can be summed up as a set of guiding principles. Follow your curiosity, even if it seems impractical. Strive for simplicity in design and in life. Embrace failure as a stepping stone. Demand excellence in all you do. Dare to think differently. Connect your work to humanity. Live urgently. Time is finite. These lessons aren't just business strategies. They are blueprints for a meaningful life. Jobs didn't just build computers, he built philosophies. And those philosophies continue to inspire millions long after his passing. It is one thing to admire Steve Jobs from a distance. It is another to let his story transform how you live your own life. Jobs himself would not have wanted people to copy him. He would have wanted people to find their own path, guided by the same principles of passion, creativity, and excellence. So how can we take the lessons from Jobs' life and put them into practice in our own? Let's break down his philosophy into actionable steps you can start applying today. Follow your curiosity. Jobs built his entire life on following what fascinated him, not what looked practical. From calligraphy classes to spiritual trips in India, his curiosity led him to unique insights that shaped Apple's identity. How to apply it: create a curiosity journal. Every time something sparks your interest, write it down, even if it seems unrelated to your work or goals. Dedicate 30 minutes a day to exploring something on that list. Read a book, watch a documentary, or practice a skill purely because it excites you. Trust that these dots will connect later. Curiosity often plants seeds that grow into opportunities in unexpected ways. Simplify your life and work. Jobs constantly eliminated distractions, both in Apple's product line and in his own decisions. He understood that focus was the secret weapon of achievement. How to apply it: once a week, audit your commitments. Ask, which of these truly matters? Which can I remove? Declutter your environment. Jobs was known for his minimalist lifestyle. Clear space often creates clear thinking. When making decisions, ask, what's the simplest way to achieve the essence of this? Remember, simplicity is not about doing less, it's about doing what matters most. Redefined failure. Jobs' firing from Apple was one of the most public failures in business history. Yet he later said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Instead of ending his career, it opened the door to Pixar, Next, and ultimately, his triumphant return. How to apply it: take one failure from your past and write down 3 ways it helped you grow. Did it teach you resilience? Did it redirect you to something better? Whenever you fail in the future, ask, what's the gift in this? Instead of hiding from failure, mine it for lessons. Use Jobs' perspective. Failure isn't final, it's fertilizer. Raise your standards. Jobs never tolerated mediocrity. He pushed himself and his teams to aim higher, even when it felt impossible. That pursuit of excellence is why Apple products feel different. How to apply it? Choose one area of your life, career, health, relationships, and define what excellent would look like. Write it down in detail. Replace the phrase good enough with how can this be better? Surround yourself with people who push you to raise your game. Excellence is contagious. Practice different thinking. Jobs' gift was challenging assumptions. He didn't accept the way things were. He asked how they could be. That mindset turned phones into iPhones, music players into iPods, and tablets into iPads. How to apply it? When faced with a problem, brainstorm at least 3 crazy solutions, no matter how impractical they seem. Ask, why not? More often. Why not try it differently? Why not break the rule? Adopt a beginner's mindset. Pretend you're seeing the problem for the first time. What would you do? 6. Make your work. Human Jobs' genius was not just in building technology, but in making technology feel human. He believed products should delight, inspire, and connect with people's emotions. How to apply it? Ask yourself, how does my work make someone's life better? Whether you're designing an app, teaching a class, or running a small business, focus on people, not processes. Add small touches of humanity to your work. A thoughtful note, a beautiful design, or an extra effort to understand someone's needs. Remember, your work isn't just about function. It's about meaning. Live urgently. Your time is limited. Jobs' confrontation with mortality sharpened his focus. He knew every day was precious, and he refused to waste it living someone else's life. How to apply it? Start your day with Jobs' mirror test. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? If the answer is no too often, make a change. Set a death clock. Imagine you have 30 years left. What would you do differently today if you knew your time was finite? A daily Jobs-inspired checklist to make these lessons practical. Here's a simple checklist you can follow each day. Spend 30 minutes exploring something you're curious about. Remove one thing from your life that doesn't matter. Or reflect on one lesson from a past failure. I do one task with absolute excellence. Challenge one assumption by asking, why not? Add one human touch to your work. End your day by asking, did I live today the way I wanted? Follow this checklist for 30 days, and you'll begin to feel the shift. You'll think differently. You'll work differently. And most importantly, you'll live differently. Applying Jobs' lessons beyond work. These principles are not only for entrepreneurs or designers. They apply to every aspect of life. In relationships, be present, be curious, and make simplicity your guide. In personal growth, treat failure as feedback and always raise your standards. In creativity, dare to challenge conventions and think differently. In purpose, remember that your time is limited, so fill it with what truly matters. Jobs' legacy is not just about iPhones and Macs, it's about a way of living. It's about refusing to compromise on what excites you, refusing to accept mediocrity, and refusing to waste the short time you have. Steve Jobs once said, "We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here?" That one sentence captures the spirit of his entire life. He was not content with living quietly, with following the rules, or with doing what was expected. He wanted to leave a mark, bold, undeniable, unforgettable. When Jobs passed away in October 2011, the world didn't just lose a businessman. It lost a dreamer, a storyteller, and a pioneer. People who had never met him felt the loss as if they had lost a close friend, because in some way they had. His products had become part of their lives, tools for communication, creativity, and connection. But beyond the devices, what Jobs really gave us was a philosophy, a way of living with intensity, clarity, and courage. His story is proof that greatness does not require a perfect beginning. Jobs was abandoned at birth, dropped out of college, and was fired from his own company. Yet through vision and persistence, he rose from those setbacks to change the world. That is why his life is so powerful. It shows us that anyone, no matter their start, can create a life of meaning. Jobs' message to us is simple but profound. Don't settle for mediocrity. Don't waste your time living someone else's life. Trust your intuition. Stay hungry, stay foolish. When he stood on stage unveiling the iPhone, the iPod, or the Mac, Jobs wasn't just showing us a product. He was showing us what happens when imagination meets courage, when discipline meets passion, when someone dares to chase the impossible. And now, the torch is in your hands. Jobs' journey is not meant to be admired from a distance, like a piece of history. It is meant to challenge you, to ask you, what dent will you leave in the universe? The truth is, you don't need to invent the next iPhone to follow Jobs' example. You don't need to build a billion-dollar company. You simply need to live with the same principles, follow your curiosity, embrace simplicity, turn failure into growth, demand excellence, and live as if today were your last. Imagine waking up each morning with Jobs' mirror test. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? Imagine applying that urgency to your decisions, your work, and your relationships. Life would feel sharper, more vivid, more meaningful. That is the real gift of Steve Jobs' story. Not the devices he created, but the way he challenges us to live, to think differently, to act boldly, to leave nothing on the table. So as you close this story, don't just remember Steve Jobs as the founder of Apple. Remember him as a reminder that you too have the power to change your world. You may not control how your story begins, but you can decide how it unfolds. Stay curious, stay simple, stay excellent, stay different. And above all, stay hungry, stay foolish. Because in the end, the only question that matters is this: when your time is up, will you have lived a life worth remembering?